We've seen what the new Dura Ace R9100 looks like. We know that it's seen some significant changes, but what we don't know yet is what it's like to ride. Until now. So what is the new Dura Ace all about then? Well, before we get onto the differences, a lot of this group set actually hasn't really changed. So for example, the cassette still has 11 sprockets on it. And actually you'll be pleased to hear that much of the group set is still compatible with the previous Dura Ace 9000. So the chain and the cassette will still work. And on this mechanical version, even though the levers and the shifters have been significantly redesigned, ultimately they still pull the same amount of cable. So that means that your old derailleurs and these new shifters would still work together. But on these mechanical ones, they're actually just one of 4 versions. So Dura Ace now has obviously Di2 with rim brakes still, and then 2 new ones, mechanical shifting with hydraulic discs, and Di2 shifting with hydraulic discs as well. As you can see though, today I'm on mechanical with rim brakes, and essentially that's because this is the only one of which there are rideable samples at the minute that haven't got prototype written all over them. As much as I'd love to ride a prototype Dura Ace Di2 hydraulic group set for you. So Shimano said they had 3 objectives with the new Dura Ace group set. To improve the aerodynamics, which I can't really comment on now. To improve the integration, which doesn't really affect the way it rides. And then also to minimise system loss. So essentially improve the efficiency of the system. And again, I can't really comment on that either. So what has actually changed this mechanical group set that really affects the way it rides? Well, both of the derailleurs have been redesigned. Now the performance of the rear derailleur is essentially the same. What they've changed is to allow it to go from an 11 tooth to a 30 tooth cassette, still using the standard rear derailleur. But then the front one, the front is totally different. And what it means is when you shift, it feels really easy at the beginning of the lever stroke. And I'd never really thought about it, given that the previous version felt so light. But actually, because of the way it worked, with a long swing arm, it meant that you did actually have to put a little bit more effort to get the lever moving. And so this new one makes it feel exactly like your rear derailleur. So it's quite a linear stroke. It's quite a subtle difference, but it is noticeable when you think about it. And when you think about it, quite enjoyable. So the levers have seen a significant redesign inside and out. And what does it actually mean then when you're on the road? Well, the lever throw, so how far you need to move the shifter in order to actuate a shift, has supposedly been reduced. And I guess if I'm really concentrating, I definitely can feel the difference. It now shifts even faster, particularly going up the block. But then it's actually the lever diameter that's changed across the board on Dura Ace. Predominantly with the hydraulic disc brake versions, they've tried to get them to feel the same as their rim brake versions. And so, although this mechanical rim brake version hasn't changed significantly, if I were to ride one with disc brakes, I think I'd definitely be able to tell the difference. Certainly I could when I gave the levers a bit of a squeeze at the launch. Now, one question that's always asked for a product when it first comes to market is how robust is it going to be? How long is it going to last? And again, I can't really say from my experiences. I'm going to do about 60 Ks in total today, and you'd hope that anything would last 60 kilometres. But one man that has actually been putting Dura Ace through its paces is Carsten Krohn. So he was a pro for about 16 years, won a stage of the Tour de France, you remember, and numerous top placings in the classics. And he's now a Shimano test pilot, so we put a few questions to him. So Carsten, as a test rider, you've obviously been putting the product through its paces, but did you give any feedback initially to Shimano about what riders might want from the next generation of Dura Ace?
No, that's not really the way it works. So the way I work as a test rider is that the engineers from Japan, they come with prototypes with new ideas they have, and They show me the product and I test it and I tell them what I think.
But is there anything specific to this group set that you wish you'd had when you were racing?
It's lighter, so I wish I would have had that, because I remember when I first started racing as a professional was in '99. I had a 9 kilo Colnago, so I wish I would have had a 6.8 one with the new Dura Ace on it. So, but it's just it's a great group set. I mean, it's just small things that small innovations they made. But it's small steps they take, but it just gets better and better. It's just incredible.
Yeah. And the great debate around disc brakes. I've heard you talking recently, and you've been saying that actually, you think it's a positive step forward. In the context of pro racing, dare I ask, a positive step forward? As
a professional bike rider, I'm also hesitant with disc brakes for obvious reasons. But the work I do now for Shimano is I test the products, and they gave me the bike, and I went down Stelvio as fast as I could in dry conditions and in wet conditions. It's amazing. So that's what I do now. I test disc brakes, and they work perfectly. So there's nothing to complain about. But to use it in a pro peloton, that's a whole different discussion. But it's not up to me to give my opinion about that.
Now, one of the most exciting things about this new Dura Ace group set is actually about what opportunities that it's going to afford frame manufacturers to do things slightly differently. So what I mean by that is things like the 0.4mm change to the chainring profile, which is going to allow manufacturers to build shorter chainstays and seat stays on disc brake bikes. Might not think that sounds like very much, but shorter chainstay means a more fun and more responsive bike. And then of course there's the rim brakes. They're now increasing the tyre clearance for 28C tyres, something that we all seemingly want to run these days. And so you can now use your Dura Ace bikes on a bike with wider tyres. And then finally, there's that intriguing Shadow Plus rear derailleur. That is going to allow manufacturers to change the dropouts of the bike, meaning you should get faster wheel changes, which is particularly important if you're running those aforementioned wider tyres and disc brakes. Now, if you want a little bit more information about the group set, about the tech details, then if you want to see our first look at it, if you click just up there, you'll get straight through to it. Or if you want to see the group set actually being launched to the world, we had some rather nice exclusive behind the scenes access. You can get through to that just down there. Otherwise, make sure you subscribe to GCN. To do that, just click on the globe hovering somewhere above Normandy.